All right, this is Session 3, Creekside High School, first full release day. We're going to be beginning with our SWIVL, the what's, the whys, and the how of SWIVL and how it can be implemented in your classroom. We have a few more people joining us. These are my people right here. All right, if you all could come a little closer because we are going to be doing some participation, and I want to make sure that I can capture you on the microphone. All right, so we're going to begin by starting with our meeting norms. We're going to start on time. We're probably going to end on time because we're going to probably end a little early. Solution-oriented, active and engaged participants, respectful of the thoughts and views of others. Turn your cell phone to silent and step out and take a call if you need to. The objective, teachers will be able to describe what the SWIVL system is, discuss why SWIVL is useful to guide classroom instruction, and explain how the SWIVL system will be utilized as a teaching resource. So we're going to begin with an analogy that I call the Monday morning quarterback. Before we play the video, I just want to give you a background. If you all remember 2014, how many football fans? How many people watch football? Football, all right? 2014 Super Bowl was between the Seattle Seahawks and the Patriots, the New England Patriots. If you remember, that last play was very crucial, a very crucial last play where the coach decided to make a decision to go with one player that didn't work out too well for him versus a player that everybody in the country thought he was going to go with. So I'm going to just show you a clip of that, and then we're going to go in discussion, and I'll tell you how that ties into our presentation this morning.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal. Malcolm Butler, who almost made the phenomenal play that wound up in Percy's arms. There are flags on the field for a celebration.
So there are some things that happened before that play and after that play that we will not be witness to because we're not on either one of those teams. So in order to further go a little deeper into that particular play, we're going to look at what the coaches and players had to do to prepare for that play, or either to make it successful or to stop it. So we're going to look at that now, and after that, we'll go.
What's funny is if you look at the play, Browner is having a conversation with Malcolm, and he's telling him exactly what he's going to do. I'm going to jam this guy, and then, we told Malcolm, just go.
If you remember, Malcolm's matchup was really curse. But Browner had seen enough of those pick routes. He anticipated what was coming as well as Malcolm. So he was like, let me get up here and jam the point, you go. Malcolm had seen that in practice.
Butler had seen it in practice. He just didn't stop it.
The inside receiver got off the line and up into the end zone. Malcolm didn't really have enough awareness for the play, so he had to go all the way around behind the receiver and the defensive back, and there was just too much space. It was an easy touchdown. So the coaching point was, if they're close enough together, then you've got to be ready to get over the top, and the defender on the inside guy has got to jam him so that he can't pick the corner going over the top.
The fact that the Patriots were even practicing against this play was a credit to Ernie Adams.
Ernie would diagram plays that either he thought that they might run against this or that he had seen from a previous game.
We put all these plays on cards, so our scout team offense, they can just come up, we'll show them this card. You're going to win or lose games at practice. I mean, there is no such thing as being a game day player. You see situations come up on the practice field, you've worked on it, you know what it takes. When it comes up in the game, because you're trained, you're seasoned, you've seen it, you react to make the play.
Second down and goal from the 1.
Seattle down 4, but on the verge of the lead. And it's intercepted!
perfect play coming. He did his homework, and he fired his shot and made the play of the year.
All right, good. So after looking at that video, we're going to just do some thinking and some pairing and some sharing. So the assignment now is to think about that. And what did the Patriots coaching staff and players do in order to prepare for a successful defensive stop on that crucial play, specifically Ernie Adams? Ernie Adams was that coach that was drawing the plays and anticipating what would have happened before it even happened. So that was what I want you to think about. While you're also pairing with your partner, discuss with your partner why is it important for both football teams, the defense and offense, to review that play after it happened. And then after that, I'm going to give you a minute, and then we'll share out. So you can take that time now to discuss with your partner. All right, about 10 more seconds, and we'll close it up. Okay. So let's begin with that first question that we was going to think about, which was, what did the Patriots coaching staff do to prepare for a successful defensive stop on that play? Any thoughts?
He was insightful, and so that allowed him to be more prepared, and he prepared for he expected the unexpected either way.
Mm-hmm. Any addition?
I think they went through every possible scenario for an end-on play, and from there they went on a play that wouldn't be popular. They practiced for that.
Yep. And one of the things he said, you can win or lose a game at practice. How does that tie into education? You can win or lose a game in practice. That's before the game.
So this is like if you're playing and you kind of see the win. It doesn't necessarily play out that way in the classroom. Play in the win, you can go in there and have success, but it doesn't necessarily play out that way. We always know we have those failures every now and then teachers. So yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to think even down to planning your lesson. You know, if you plan a lesson for a scenario to go perfect, and then when you get to your room, it doesn't go that way, what's your backup plan? Like right now, what would I do if the internet went out today or the power went out and we still had to keep going? What would be my backup plan? Did I plan for that? You know, and that's something that made that incredible is because he actually, when they go back in the tape and they show them actually running the play that the Seattle Seahawks tried to run and they were prepared to stop it. And even in practice, he never stopped it. He couldn't figure out how to stop the play, but on the day of the game he did. So it was a mental thing. And then the other one was, why was it important for both teams to review this play after it happened? Like, why is it important now for the Seahawks to look at that play?
So you can see what went wrong and what to do the next time and how to improve something that went wrong or something that you've done, you can do better by watching and seeing what plays that took place.
Mm-hmm. Good. So it's all about being reflective. One thing for us as educators, sometimes it's hard to be reflective. You know, sometimes things could occur and we'll point the blame at others, but we'll never point it at ourselves. We can look at why our students are failing and say, well, look at where they come from. They skip. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that. We keep pointing, or the administration ain't supporting us, or my coworkers, when we in there, they don't take it seriously. But sometimes we ain't never turning it back on what we're doing, and sometimes we have to be reflective on what we can control, and we can control ourselves. So that moves on to me asking the question, when I say the term tape review, what does that mean to you? When I say what is tape review?
We can build on your experiences to be progressive.
Based on looking at
What has happened.
Yeah. Yes. All right. So there are a few areas that they use tape review to improve their performance. So, for example, track and field. How is a tape or reviewing tape important to a person that's in track and field?
You kind of know how that runner is gonna, when they're gonna hit it, or you know how their race is gonna flow. You know what they're assessing for timing.
Yes. So. Yeah, so like we said earlier today, the most important thing is come out the block. Like one of the most important things at least is, and if you look at your tape and you realize what you're doing at that particular moment, then you'll see where you lost that race or how you won that race or how others lost it. All right? What about public speaking? That's the number one thing, what you just said as far as that. Even in this particular presentation, when I go back and look at it, it's going to kill me because I know I've said it so many times without wanting to say it, but it's something that I have to work on. I've spoken to, Ms. Max one time. We was at a meeting, and I said, it seems like the higher you get as an executive and you have to stand in front of a lot of people, they are so smooth. When I go to conferences and it's the keynote speaker, they just walk around so confident and smooth, and you're like, wow. How do you get to that point? But it takes practice. And practice means videotaping yourself and getting to that point where you say, all right, I have to stop saying this and not say that when I move. If I have a stage this large, I can't just stay in the middle of the stage the whole time because there's people over there. I went to Title I conference last year. LeVar Burton spoke, and the audience was the largest audience I've probably ever seen for one person. And he was able to work the entire room. But I think it's because he practiced, and he probably seen himself on camera moving around and working the room. Let me ask this question. So, last week, was this week, Beyonce performed at the VMAs. And I heard she killed it. Still didn't get a chance to see it yet. Do you think Beyonce went back and looked at the tape from the VMAs, look at her performance? And if she did, what do you think she's looking for? Why? Mm-hmm.
She also looked at the ways to improve herself and the dancers together.
Mm-hmm. So in that moment, we look at it and say, wow, she did good. But she looks at it and looks at timing. That dancer was a half second off, and the band didn't drop at the right time, but we still made it look good. And those are the type of things that make improvements for the future or who she needs to get rid of for the rest of her tour. Like, all right, you can't do this no more. What about a scientific project?
Trial and error. You know what will work and what won't work.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times when you're doing a scientific project, it's processes and steps that need to be recorded in order for you to know how to make improvements for the next time. I know that one of the one of the TV shows I like is Science Athlete, like a sports science, where they do a science experiment based on some type of sport and hitting somebody, how hard somebody get hit or how fast somebody run. But when they slow things down, you see it from a different perspective. And so sometimes you think about it in a science project, that's needed. You can even change your hypothesis based on the future, based on what you observed from the last time you watched yourself. And finally, crowd monitoring. Why is it important to go back and review tape sometime when we're dealing with large crowds? Mm-hmm. Sometimes yeah, exactly. Because I was going to say, sometimes we have a situation that occurs, or it may occur in the same place of an area, and then it's time to look back and see, all right, what are we not covering? What do we need supervision in order for that to change? Like right now, I think that we have an issue with our bottom of the 400, top of the lobby, 300 lobby, and then transition. Not saying that we can change that, but if we were to look at tape and look at the flow of people and where they're coming from, it may be a way for us to say, let's maneuver and put supervision in a specific place so we route students a certain way so we won't have those jam-ups. So that could be a way that we can utilize looking at tape. So just to go back to the Monday morning quarterback, after reviewing the tape, the coach may have thought about adjusting the offensive line. He might have changed the play call. Like we always said, if you know football, everybody in the world just knew that Marshawn Lynch, who would have probably scored 100% of the time, was going to get the ball and score a touchdown. The coach said, let's throw it to this guy from Macon, Georgia. That's where he's from. I know somebody that he knows, so that's why I said that. Yeah, so, but let's throw it to him, and he didn't even get the ball anyway. But let's take a timeout. Like when they lined up, the coach could have said, all right, they're reading our play. They know exactly what we're about to do. Timeout. Let's go back if they had any timeouts. Shifting players, he could have said shift over a little bit. He's going to cut you off. Or finally, he could have said, let's substitute. Let's get somebody in for that particular player that that was already in there. So now we're going to talk about the Monday morning teacher, which is what are and this is a question for you all to discuss real quick. Just share out. What are general observations a teacher or coach would discuss after reviewing a video of their classroom instruction?
Maybe they can assess where they're losing the students' attention or focus and how they can maintain the students' attention or keep them more engaged.
Anything else?
Also, just looking at their teaching style, because I know, like, when I was in the classroom, I had a tendency of standing in one location and sitting on both sides of the classroom. But as I got comfortable, I started moving around in aisles and everything, and that kind of got to his attention because it's like, hey, she's going to ask me about my business, see what she's doing while she's talking, and monitoring the room. So that's something that you can see because even for our first year teachers, it's kind of hard to get your feet in there, so you don't know what you're doing in the class.
That's good. All right. So just to add to what you all said, time management. Looking at how you gauge the time of your class. Are you spending half the class on the warm-up, and then when it's time to get to the work period, then you're rushing through it, and then you run out of time, and then you didn't really get through your lesson? Is it because, or is it the opposite? Are you rushing through your warm-up, spending the whole class period on one activity, and then the kids are getting bored, and then they start becoming class management issues? Student seating, one of the things, as far as should certain students be grouped in certain areas when you group them, is that a reason why you have issues because you have your students where they're sitting? Teacher proximity, like Ms. Bethea just said, that's really important, and that can go all the way down into your data. If you look at a tape and most of the time you're in one area of the room, you're always over here, and then it gets to the assessment, and then you look at the trends and realize that everybody in this area seems to do really well on the assessment, but over there and there they're always struggling, and it's probably because I don't give them the same amount of attention. That may be an issue, or it could lead back to class management if you're always in a certain area, and why is those students in the front always for the most part tame, and the ones in the back are always acting like they have some issues. A level of terminology. Last year when we began to implement SWIVL, where we began to videotape classrooms, I started with the content leads in the ELA. So that was Dr. Armstrong, Ms. Kennebrew, Ms. Green, and Ms. Veazey. And all we wanted them to do was look at the level of terminology that they use when asking questions to students. That was it. So, and we wanted to make sure that our students are prepared for higher level questioning. But I wanted to ask them, how many times did you ask the question, what, or why? And that just basically leads back to students answering those questions at a particular time. But when we get to the end of the year, how many what questions will be on an assessment? It's very limited. So that was the whole point of that. And student engagement. Right now, my SWIVL is right here in the middle. If we had a full class, I would probably have a little further back. That way, it's focusing on me. I'm still the focused person. However, it's still able to engage the audience as I'm moving around. If I have students with their head on the desk, if they're looking around, they're talking, I can see all that. Things that you probably wouldn't pay attention to when you're actually in the act of teaching. So now we're going to switch and talk specifically about the SWIVL. That was pretty much just to talk about the importance of having videos in the classroom. Now we're going to talk about the swivel and what the swivel is, and then we'll move on to why we're using a swivel. So that's what the swivel is. And now we're going to talk about why using a swivel. And this is going to be a video from a university that has implemented using the swivel and how to use it in order to engage their students in classroom instruction.
So video can be a really powerful way to observe one's self-teaching. So when recording it and then going back and looking at what it is that you've done, how you've facilitated learning, things you might have missed. So it's a really powerful tool for self-reflection, but then also sharing your practice with other people and analyzing it, because now you have a record of practice, and that's what video does. It's also really helpful for observing student teachers, because you get a chance to see them in their natural environment where you're not an extra person in the classroom, and you can see how they interact with students, how they interact with their colleagues, if there are other colleagues in the room, but also just their movements. How do they move? How do they facilitate learning? Where do they stand? Where are they spending their time? How do they work with students in small groups or large groups? It's going to be a powerful tool both for supervising student teachers, but also then for one's own professional development too.
Here at Grand Valley, we are using SWIVL to observe student teachers from a distance in order to provide quality feedback on instruction without being physically present. The SWIVL works with most mobile devices and allows students to create quality recordings of their instruction with their smartphones, tablets, or other recording devices. Using infrared, the swivel base follows teachers as they are giving instruction. Additionally, the swivel marker, which is housed on a lanyard, also acts as a wireless microphone which provides superior audio when compared to most built-in mics on a mobile device. This technology allows us to extend our reach to students at a distance while at the same time being able to provide them with the same quality feedback that comes from an in-person student-teacher observation.
So now that we know a little bit about the swivel, now we're going to talk specifically how it can be used in our classrooms. And that's the whole point. So from the swivel website, just talk about the background of swivel. It began as a device to record things, just anything, like skateboarding and stuff out in the park or whatever. However, somebody said it's a good idea that we can use this now in the classroom in order for teachers to now be reflective upon their practice and get better. So from the website, I pulled what they say for how swivel can be useful for individuals. We already talked about self-reflection. One of the things, like we said, it's very awkward and kind of difficult to look at yourself after you videotape yourself. You listen to your ums, you look awkward sometimes, your technology ain't going right, then they kind of throw you off for the rest of the presentation. Whether it's in your classroom, looking at yourself more, not just as much or more than, but just as much as you're looking at your classroom. For student feedback, it allows you to give student feedback based off of concrete evidence. It's not based off of what you thought you saw or what you thought you heard, but what you actually saw from the video with your swivel device and your feedback. Presentations. Now, for you all, this will not be a level that you all are going to right now. Right now, we just want you all to focus on videotaping yourself and getting your own feedback. Where I'm doing now as far as presentations, which is controlling the presentation with my remote and linking it up and syncing it up, that we wouldn't want you all to do that right now. We just want you to videotape yourself. But in the future, that would be something that would come up as well as in a flipped classroom. But for teams, is how we want to utilize it, is for video our observations of classrooms, and then you are able to now take your video and then meet with your coach and then say, all right, let's look at this together and talk about how we can make some improvements. We just want to emphasize that this is not going to be an evaluative tool. So we'll not come in there and stick the swivel in your classroom and then come back 90 minutes later, pick it back up, and then take it in our office and write an evaluation on you. It's not going to be used that way, all right? For our professional learning community, for our PLCs, this is a question I have for, so we have various. In PLCs right now, if we were to put the swivel in your PLC right now, what would we see right now different than we would see if we continue to videotape the PLCs throughout the year? Yeah, and I know a lot of times when we meet, sometimes, especially when we meet once a week, we kind of just say, all right, let me go in there and do what I got to do. I'm going to take my laptop in there so I can work on something while I'm working on that. And then with the engagement is down, the engagement is low, and then you never really get the full purpose of why we even meeting in the first place. And a lot of times we don't know how we conduct ourselves when we're in meetings. You know, I think it's a good thing to have a computer or iPad or phone, but sometimes when a person is presenting, you don't know how it looks when they're presenting and you're somewhere texting on a computer, looking in the sky. So when you look at yourself in that particular meeting, you're like, oh, wow, I need to straighten up. I look like the black sheep of the group, you know. So that's something to kind of look back on. And then best practices, which will tie back into those PLCs. Best practices meaning you will be able to now take some of the good things that you do and share. So the ultimate goal of the swivel for our school is to be able to educate ourselves. That's the number one goal. So number one, we're going to educate ourselves by looking at videos of ourselves, meaning our person. Then you'll be able to share your video with someone who maybe needs assistance but can't get to you. So we'll make a library of exemplar videos. So for example, if it's a great math strategy that went across really well and you have good results from it, somebody else that may be teaching math may not be able to get in your classroom or get what you're saying by speaking with them in a PLC. So now you can just show them the video. So ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to be uploading these videos into a cloud, and we'll talk about the cloud, and we're going to create a Creekside YouTube channel, which will allow everyone to go on and log on and see it, not only from our school, but across the world. So as we talked about this summer about changing our narrative, that's the way of changing narrative. A lot of times when you look at YouTube or these teaching channels, the teachers or the students don't look like us or ours. They look like somebody else. And then it's hard for our teachers or our students to relate when we say do it like that. All right? Because its first question is, well, they don't look like ours. They don't act the same way. So that's that. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the actual device. So the first thing is the robot. So I'm going to come over here, and if you want to turn around and look at the robot is the big circular piece. Now, so you'll see that this is my stand. The robot is this part, which is connected to it. That is the main part. So that moves around, it follows this around. So if you notice, I have this on my neck. Everywhere I go, it turns to follow me. So it's different. It makes it different than the old school way of videotaping yourself, where you have one camera, and then once you walk out of the focus, it's out of focus. You just hear yourself, or barely hear yourself. On top of that, it has a cradle that holds any device, which you'll talk about the different devices. So this is that part. This syncs with the remote, which is this part that I have around my neck. So as I move, you'll see that the robot will follow me and stay with me. On top of the remote, there's a microphone. So everything that I'm saying is recorded and it's clear because it's right here under me. That's why they suggest to wear the lanyard with it. On the remote control, you can control your presentation like I'm doing. But like I said, somebody's taking over my Apple TV again? All right. So it'll still keep recording. So as far as moving your presentation, you can do that with this remote as well. And then also you can pause the robot. So for example, if I'm over here and I know that I have students who have not gotten clearance over there, every time I need to go over there and talk to you, I don't have to stop recording. I can just pause the robot, walk over there, talk to you all, and still be recorded. And then when I want to unpause it, I can go back and forth. So that's that. And then as far as devices are concerned, Apple and Android devices all work together. So what you would need to do is just go on, download the app, and after you download the app, then you'll have it on your device. So let's see if I can take over my Apple TV again. Last time the person did that, they were writing profanity up there. So this is the how, and we're almost at the end. So you create a SWIVL Cloud account. The SWIVL Cloud account is where all your videos will be housed. So you personally can have your own SWIVL Cloud account. That way, everything you record goes to your area. You can record it, you review it, upload it, do what you want to do with it. It's yours. Ultimately, we want to have a Creekside SWIVL Cloud account where we can send everything or record everything to the same area, and then we can look at it together if it's something that you choose to share. After that, you would download the app called SWIVL Practice on your device. So right now I have an iPad. You can have an iPad. You can have your phone. You can have anything that you can download the app on. There's different cradles for different devices, so it doesn't matter the size. We will have the department chairs responsible for your SWIVLs. So if you're, like for example, Mr. Hall, Social Studies teacher, go to him. Math, go to Scott. ELA, Green. Science, Mr. Hill, and then we have some extra ones for other support staff as well that want to implement a SWIVL or documentation in their classroom. Once you get that, you go in, it's simple, hit play or hit record, you record it, hit stop, you start recording, and it'll automatically sync it to the cloud. All right, so it's really easy. What I have set up here may look complicated. It's not that complicated. It would really be this remote and that robot, and that's all you would need. So just to review the tape and talking about what we're talking about as far as how we suggest you use it. Like we said again, it's only used for coaching. It's not used for evaluations. Suggestion is that when you view your tape, view it alone. Just take it, get a notepad, and just write down notes about what you saw, what you need to adjust. Find a focus area in the video. Like we said earlier, if your focus is to look at your proximity to students or where you're moving or how many times you use lower level DOK versus higher level, but choose one focus. Don't try to look at the entire 90 minutes and write down everything you did right or wrong, and you'll never really find a focus area. Take notes, ask questions to yourself. So it would be good to ask yourself questions as if it's not you. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? How did you do this? Then you'll answer those questions and it'll let you know how to adjust for the future and be reflective. So with that being said, does anyone have any specific questions on how this is set up or how to implement this in your classroom? Right now we have about 8 SWIVLs. So like I said, we have enough for each department. If it becomes popular and more people really want to implement it and use it, then that's something we'll look at trying to invest in for more. Right now, we just have that about 8.
We're using our own device, so we use our own phone.
Yeah, you can use your own phone, or device. Right now, that'd probably be the best bet. No, that comes with it. Now, as far as you still have your classroom iPads or the ones, so going through Ms. Royal, as long as we have the app on the iPad, then that's all. You all have your different sign-in, so it can be, as long as the SWIVL Practice is on that iPad, then it don't matter. It don't have to be your own device. Yeah, because you sign in. All right, so thank you all for attending the presentation today, and we're going to now conclude, and thank you again. Have a great Labor Day weekend.